So, this moment, just as it is, wanting nothing more than this, the fullness of this moment, not pushing anything away, not wanting anything more. Just being here, just as you are. Simply being here, just as you are. There is nothing to do, but it is so hard not to do anything for the mind. The mind will even make a meal out of not doing, not doing. It will try to do not doing. How can I do not doing? Right? So afraid of the stop, so afraid of the silence, and yet longing so deeply for the stop, for the peace that is true, longing so deeply for the silence of being that is the true nature of all beings. To just be here, just as you are. There's nothing that you need to do or get rid of, because you already are everything that is longed for. Right here underneath the play of the world, the dance of the mind, silence is here. It's just when the attention relaxes, there is the discovery of this truth that you are. That everything that is longed for is right here. It is too simple for the mind. Too simple for a mind that wants to do something. It is just to be aware how that motivation to do is so strong when the invitation is just to stop. Be aware of the doer and recognize that in your own presence, you are not the doer, that you are just simply being here. This moment, just as it is, in utter openness, the whole moment is welcomed. It's not about dividing in any way, not about evaluating. It's just about being here, just as you are. There's nothing to interpret. There's nothing to understand. There are no instructions to follow. It's just to be here. Be here, simple, innocent, open, aware being. When the attention relaxes, there is a turning towards the inner landscape of being and away from the habitual tendency to engage with the mind. To turn towards the simplicity of just being. To turn inwards. To turn inward is the relaxation of attention. To be with the innermost being that is the true nature, the simplicity, the silence, the stillness of simply being yourself. You see, you're not looking to be something or someone else. You are just recognizing who you are when you are nothing, when you are no one. Who are you? You are still here. You are richer, fuller, more radiant than could ever be imagined. You are shining, shining as yourself, shining as the true one, shining as the light of awareness, shining as the radiant heart of being, the luminous effulgence that is the self. To know yourself is not an experience that comes and goes. To know yourself is not an experience in any way. It is the end of experience. It is the ever-present truth, the ever-present simple being that you are. To just be yourself. Feel the simplicity of your existence, that you are here, that you can feel your own presence just being here. It's just to feel your own presence, simply being here, and to be here. Be here so fully. Be here so fully that you are presence itself. You are presence itself, simply being here. There's no one being present. When you are so fully here, you are presence itself. The someone having an experience or looking for an experience of presence dissolves into the simplicity of being presence. Simply being presence. Presence being present to its own presence. Awareness being aware of its own aware being. Where attention relaxes, collapses in on itself, to recognize who are you, can only know who you are when there is a letting go of all ideas of being someone, and you discover that who you are is this simple presence, this simple moment, this open, silent, aware being is the true nature. Cannot find this with the mind, can only be this. And your knowing, the knowing of being, is the confirmation in the realm of the innermost being. It is just to be so undone, to come to such a deep relaxation here now. No trying, no effort, no striving, no wanting. Just simply being here. If there is activity happening in the mind, in the body, it's just to be aware. Be simply aware without engaging with mind or body. Be aware of thoughts that come and go. Be aware of moods and emotions. Be aware of sensations, tensions, discomforts in the body. Be aware of everything that is moving and changing. And as you are aware of all that is moving and changing, recognize that who you are, that is aware, is not moving and changing. That who you are as the aware being is still. That awareness is simply aware. Aware of the mind, aware of the body, aware of thoughts, aware of the moving, changing landscape that is perceived through sense perception. Anything that you can perceive, anything that you are aware of, you are not. So fall back, come to rest, watch what comes and goes, and recognize that if it is moving, if it is coming and going, then that you are not. The presence that you are is still unchanging, simple, openness. Nothing to do, simply be. To be aware and to watch as the mind may attempt to intercept this moment. It may attempt to offer some knowledge. The interceptor is often acting as a spiritual authority. The mind speaking to itself, offering spiritual advice. Don't believe it. See that it is an interceptor, that the mind knows nothing about this true spirituality. The only authority is the being itself. The only authority is to be yourself. There is an autonomy in the being that does not rely on anything external. It's never about being right or wrong. There's no one to get it, so there's nothing that can be confirmed by the external. The knowing is in being yourself. It is this recognition that you already are. You already are the simple being. It's this relaxation into simplicity. This relaxation to just be here, so fully present to your own presence, that all sense of being someone, the story, the attachment to past and future dissolves into this moment, and you can feel your own presence. Mm. Mm. To know nothing, to know nothing, to do nothing, just to be here. Mm. The light of truth is inside you. There is nothing to be discovered in the external. It is to discover the light that you are. Discover the indweller, the light that has always been on. And allow the light of your innermost being to guide. Guide you into yourself, into the divine remembering of who you have always been. You never have been a separate individual You have never been the story. You have never been touched in any way by the play of the world. You have only ever been the immaculate being. You are before everything. The knowing of this is here. It is the knowing of this that is already here that causes the seeking to happen. It's just that the sense of seeker, of longing, of wanting to know yourself arises, and the mind co-opts that sense and directs attention into the world to try to find what is being sought. But when you are trying to find what is being sought in things, you'll be constantly disappointed. But to turn the attention inwards is to find that you never have been a seeker, and the only reason that the impulse arose in you is because you already are everything that is being sought. In fact, your wholeness is seeking you. Your wholeness is seeking to bring the idea, the sense of separation into the remembering of union. There never is or has been any separation. There is only wholeness. There is only one. But you cannot know this with the mind, because the mind by its nature fragments. But it's not to make an enemy of the mind. It's not to play the game of the mind talking to the mind. Oh, the mind is bad. The mind says this, and I mustn't listen to the mind, right? It's an interceptor. It's nonsense. Just be aware of it and recognize that as that which is aware, there's no narrative, there's no commentary, there's simplicity. And there's also not a negating the mind. The being is not trying to stop the mind. The being is not trying to evaluate whether what the mind is saying is worthy or not. Right? The being has got nothing to say about the mind. The being loves the mind. It's natural. It's natural. The mind is just a dance. It's just a song. Right? It's just a song. You just don't need to sing along. Don't need to make harmonies. It's just to be aware of it. Recognize that as the awareness, you have your own song. You have your own tune. It's so powerful. It's so profound. It is the celestial sound of silence. And when you know silence, when you know the silence of being, you are no longer being carried or enchanted by the song of the mind, attempting to pull the attention, because the song of silence, the sound of silence, the nadam, is so profound, so powerful, so roaringly alive that you want nothing more than to listen to your own silent heart. You are not compelled by the mind. Can be aware of the mind singing its song, harping on. But my goodness, it has no power when you are resting in the power of being yourself, when you are resting in the power of silence itself, knowing the silence that you are in the peace, in the stop, you are in the grace of everything that has been longed for. You are in the grace of being yourself. You can be aware of mind. You can be aware of the moving, changing. But here you are, home in the silent heart, being yourself. So compelling, so compelling to just be with yourself, to fall into your own intelligence. Into being yourself, where there is an alignment, an attunement. You are attuned to the resonant frequency of the silent heart of being. Radio infinity. You're no longer being pulled by those popular channels, right? Singing the same old song that you've been hearing, the mind singing the same old song, playing the same old tune, trying to distract you and pull you. No, no, no. You are attuned to radio infinity, the silence of just being yourself. Deeper, 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 you falling into yourself, a remembering so profound, an aliveness so rich, a peace so deep and undisturbable, a joy and effervescence in the aliveness of knowing yourself. Oh, and the heart so radiant, shining, shining, shining in and of itself. Can feel the shining light that has always been here, always on, never dimmed. Shining, shining as the self that you are. What could be more beautiful? What could be more beautiful? It is to drop the mask, drop the facades, drop the drama, drop the story, and just be your beautiful self. Your light is shining. It's like the sun, ever shining, ever bright, ever luminous, never ever extinguished. Feel the warmth of your own nature welcoming you home in this moment. This moment, be home in the heart of being that you are. Do not need to understand. Fall between the thoughts, fall between the breaths, fall between the cracks into the infinite resonance of your own self, to the infinite resonance of the being that you are. It is not a journey, it's a spontaneous, immediate transcendence. Boom, kapow, here you are, right? You cannot fathom it with the mind. You cannot look for it with the mind. The mind will always be the obscuration. The mind will always pull you. You can only escape the maze of the mind by being aware of the mind. When you are the aware witness of the mind, you are immediately, spaciously distanced from being entangled with the mind. The maze of the mind will go round and around and around. It will go round and around and around, and it will keep talking to itself. It will tell stories of fixing, of good things, of better things, of pleasure, of attainment, of spiritual ambition, being fulfilled, the mind will act like a spiritual authority. It will tell you, this is it, that is not it. This is where you're safe, that is where you're not safe. You're here now, you weren't there before. The mind will tell you all sorts of garbage. It can never ever tell you the truth. Impossible. Impossible. The truth is when you are resting in the autonomy of the self, where your knowing is the authority, where your knowing through being the being is the authority. You do not need external confirmation. You do not need confirmation because it is an unquestionable aliveness in the being itself that recognizes itself. Unquestionable, undoubtable, does not need, nor could the mind qualify or confirm. The confirmation is the heart itself. The confirmation is the illumination of your knowing. This is the confirmation. The confirmation is the shining, resonant beauty of your heart that just knows, that just knows. Sometimes in the beginning, this can feel tender. It can feel tender that the mind can attempt to co-opt and say, well, I'll tell you whether this is it or not. I'll let you know. Haha, and this is not it. That's what it will say. It will say, doubt, doubt, doubt that vast, expansive infinity. Doubt that because you're not safe there. You're definitely not safe there, but you're safe with me. You're safe with me in the familiar cycle of pain and pleasure and misery. Here you are safe. Here you are safe. Yes, you can feel you are safe. You are safe, but you are not home. You are not home in the heart of truth. That is the great longing. And so do not listen to the mind that will spin you a yarn. It will knit you a jumper out of its woolly yarn, but it will never, ever, ever bring you the truth. You can only escape through being aware of the mind, recognizing and confirming that anything that you are aware of, anything that you are perceiving, you are not. Every thought that you are aware of, if you can be aware of it, then it's not truth. As you unhook all of the non-truths, it's not even to let the mind intercept in to give you a commentary. Oh, that's the mind, that's the mind. No, no, no. Just be aware. Be the silent awareness. Remember who you are as the silent aware being. Remember the true one that you are. Remember yourself. Remember the impersonal self and trust only the impersonal self that confirms itself in the heart of being, confirms itself in the heart. It's ever smiling, ever alive with its own knowing, ever resonating in the silent clarity of truth. It's not a truth that can be spoken. It's a truth that can only be known through being the being that you are. Life will go on. The play will continue to play, and the mind will be used as a tool for functioning. We're not trying to get rid of the functioning mind. We're not trying to get rid of mind in any way. We are just coming to recognize what the mind truly is and who you truly are, that you are not the mind. And if you let the mind be the master, you will be living in misery. No question. Even if you are having a pleasant moment, it's still misery because you're still waiting for the next disappointment to come along and desperately attempting to avert the disappointment coming. Life in the play of separateness, in the play of illusion, is misery all the way through. Sometimes there will be periods of pleasure. There will be things that make you happy. And when things make you happy, the ego will relax. But this is not freedom. Freedom is to know the wholeness that you are. Freedom is to know the self that you have always been. Freedom is to know yourself as the wholeness of being. Freedom is freedom from the illusion of separation. Freedom from the past. Freedom from attachment to past. Attachment to past will keep dragging you into identification. Even if you have had some profound awakening experiences, attachment to past, which is your nervous system, stirred up nervous system, attachment to past will continuously drag you into identification and rob you of the freedom that you could even have a sense of knowing of who you are. Past arises when the nervous system is triggered, is enlivened, has got a charge in it. Where there is attachment and remembering of past, when the nervous system is charged, if you react and you move into identification because the felt sense of the stress in your nervous system is being interpreted by the mind, it will pull you into identification. Even if in the deepest sense you know who you are. In the process of unity unfolding, this will happen. In the process of refinement, this will happen. The grace is that every time you get pulled into identification, you have this glorious opportunity to let go of the story and to just allow the charge in the nervous system that is the memory of past, the memory of something that is, if interpreted, creates identification. If you just allow the stress to release, you will release the stress, surrender will happen, and you will find yourself deeper in the being and the heart more open than it ever has been. When the heart is wide open, the knowing of yourself is more alive, deeper, more glorious, more beautiful. And that love that you are is flowing right to the surface. That light that you are is shining right on the surface. So there is grace in every single happening in the play of the world. You are never getting it wrong, and you are never getting it right. It can only be the way it is. Your consciousness is creating the visual appearance that you see. But in truth, the visual appearance is only really happening inside your own experience. It's happening in your awareness. If there's no interpretation, you will be living in the glory and magnificence of God, of the Mother, where there's no interpretation, where there's no opinion, where there's no differentiation. There's the knowing only of God, God knowing God, divinity itself, shining. That's all. So the grace of these arisings are wearing down, they're eroding the relationship with past. They're releasing all the stress from the nervous system. Life living itself is a divine happening, of course. Of course. but it is to see it from where it is arising from, right? You see it as the source of being. You see where it's arising from. When you can see where it's arising from, bubbling out of the silence, bubbling up, using your own consciousness as the substance to create a situational appearance that will bring you a deeper knowing of where you are resting. It will bring you a deeper clarity of your blind spots, much to the ego's disgrace, right? But that's the glory. And the more that you see the intelligence, you recognize the intelligence of how all this is working, you can only see the grace in it all, even when the ego is feeling a little dismayed, because it feels shame or guilt or revealed or exposed. It feels humbled. But there is nothing more profound than being humbled, because humility itself is the true nature. And without humility, we cannot know God. We cannot approach God without humility. We cannot approach divinity without humility. Cannot even be someone that has humility. Not even. And that is what the process of unity, the refinement is bringing forward. It's disintegrating all threads of someone-ness into humility itself, into no one-ness. No one-ness, nothingness, is a depth of humility. Humble, humble, humble. Ever being humbled into wholeness. Ever being humbled into the light that you are. Ever being humbled into the deepest possible knowing of true nature. The silence is greater. The silence is more profound as the humbling happens. Realms and realms of silence to move through. The silent landscape, ever deepening, ever more profound. Nothing is ever out of place. The invitation is always just to meet this moment just as it is, in utter openness, innocence, with no relationship to past. You will soon find out if relationship to past comes in, because you will feel it in your nervous system. Your nervous system is your consciousness. And where your nervous system gets stored, it's a discordant pattern in consciousness, just coming forward to be released. If you could be so simple, every time the nervous system is stirred up, a trigger, a charge, a resistance, if every time there was a disturbance in the nervous system, if there was the ability to stay still, be aware, and say, this is just stress. This is relationship to past. This is just old stress coming forward to be released. This is the grace of the Mother. This is the divine offering. If you could just be still and allow that stress to release, whether it brings tears, whether it brings feelings, whatever it brings, if there was the ability to stay completely still, the stress will move very, very quickly. The habit that has been learned as a protective mechanism is to interpret what is happening in the nervous system. to interpret it through thoughts and information that has been stored as memory. And that information interprets the felt sense in the nervous system and reacts in some way according to that relationship to past and what is being stirred and what memory is being brought forward, right? Even to see that mechanism, of course, it offers something, but to analyze it, there's a point where it offers something and there's a point where it's distracting you away. The deepest possibility is the recognition. Nervous system is being stirred. Allow the stress to release. It takes a lot to come to this place, right? But everything gets worn down. You will come to this place if you keep following this process of refinement with diligence. You will come to this place where the same kind of reactions will not happen. The relationship to past will not pull you out. But there's a process in time that is required for dispassion to, let's say, be developed in a way, to be cultured, right? Because the learned habit is so strong. But there's no wrongdoing when reaction happens. There's no wrongdoing. That is grace. It's showing you your blind spot. It's showing you where there's attachment. It's showing you that reaction happens. So if there can be a receiving of all of this with an openness, a smile, right? This is the next possibility. Oh, I'm really triggered. Oh, I'm really reactive. Smiling to yourself, we could say, even while on the surface, there's reaction and feelings, intensity happening, resistance, a charge, right? Can you be the witness of that even when it's happening? Can you face adversity and allow adversity to be playing out, but hold a ground of being where you are aware, right? It's possible. Sometimes the storm will be so big and you're just spinning, you're spinning in it, you're identified and you're gone, right? It's still okay. At some point, the grace is that awareness comes in, and remembering comes with awareness, because you are awareness. So when awareness is here, remembering comes. You remember, oh, this is who I am, the aware being that is aware of the character that's reacting and the play that's happening. You remember, you find the ground of being, you find the truth, right? All of these scenarios can play, can be a mix and match depending on the power of the discordant feelings that are coming in. Can go for long periods of time feeling very stable and deep in and non-reactive, and then out of the blue, you're reeling, right? It's not wrong. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters to the being. The being has no opinion, no judgment, no right or wrong, no good or bad. It's just this glorious dance of consciousness refining within itself, experiencing itself, coming to know itself, coming to know the process of knowing itself, coming to recognize its own intelligence and refining through that process. Everything is the glory dancing as consciousness. It's bringing you deeper. It's the fuel for freedom, right? Nothing is wrong. When you are resting in the being, there is a deeper and deeper allowing of this process of transformation. On a certain level, when you are stuck, you are in the teeth of karma. You're pulled in to the play of cause and effect. But when you are resting in the being, you can see that there are karmic energies playing out. There are things that have to play out right? The body has to go through certain karmas. But when you are resting in the being, you can see that it's just a transformational cycle and you're not stuck in it, right? Being stuck is being in the maze of the mind. Resting in being and being in the transformational cycle is the natural process of refinement that is unifying the divine remembering of your true nature all the way through, so that you can recognize yourself as everything, to really know the deep oneness in every single aspect of life, that the oneness of your true nature can permeate and live in every single aspect of life, right? And there's this incredible service happening in that you're being released from any sense of the personal into the impersonal. So there's this beautiful releasing happening that feels like you're getting freer into your true nature, right? You're resting more deeply, and you're being freed of all possibility of identification. And simultaneously, the service is to the collective, to the whole. We're freeing these karmic entanglements that are, let's say they are collective archetypal energies, right? So you're in service to the whole, you're in service to the divine. And as this refinement happens and your light, you can feel and recognize your light shining. You can recognize the openness of the heart. The great service is that the divine can then move through you to the surface, right? So you are a vehicle of service, where the light is shining and the love is emanating. So it's this incredible, wise process that is happening. We're not getting stuck in the phenomena. We're not getting stuck in the story, but we are also not transcending away from it. We're in this full openness, this full receiving of life. We're recognizing that true spirituality is the openness to receive absolutely everything, right? Yes, the true nature is the transcendent field of being, but we are utterly open in our true nature to keep receiving the play of life, recognizing that the play of life is created out of your consciousness. So it's never below you and it's never above you. It is you, and it's happening for you to know that. It's happening for you to know that. You will start to notice that movements come to, you're drawn more to certain environments and you're pulled away from certain environments. And conditioning will maybe pull you towards environments that don't feel comfortable, or situations that don't feel comfortable anymore. But that will all settle itself out, right? Certain friendships will not feel nourishing in the same way. They'll feel uncomfortable and draining. And that's because we're not here to be nostalgic people. We're here to just be in the moment, to be living this truth in the moment. We're not here to play out the cycle of attachment and holding on to memory and nostalgic stories. We're here to be the living presence of being, the living now, the living shining light that is the radiant heart. The greatest service to all beings is to live this truth, to live this wholeness. Even if it seemingly pulls you away from certain relationships, that is actually your service. It's your service to release old ties and old bonds that are just nostalgic, mental memory, psychological memory, right? It's to live in a depth of truth where you're in the oneness, so you never leave anything because everything is yourself, but you're meeting in the love that doesn't need to play a certain way on the surface. You're meeting in a love that you know as the eternal, timeless nature. And that it doesn't matter whether you've seen that being for 5 years, 10 years, or 5 minutes before, that you are the same one love, you are the same one heart. And you know, the knowing of that is so deep that you don't need any kind of reassurance or to play through the filters of conditioning on the surface. You can really truly live in the allowing of what is here and fresh and what is enlivening, right? It's not to create any stories. A lot of old connections will remain because they will be beautiful. So it's not to create any stories around it. Usually with these kind of things coming forward, the mind will say, oh, do I have to leave my family? Do I have to leave my friends? No, that's not what's being spoken. That is your fear. That's your attachment to past being stirred. It's not what's being spoken. There are no rules. There's nothing being asked of you. Can you actually imagine? No, you can't. What it's like for nothing to be asked of you. Nothing is being asked of you by the divine. Nothing. This is freedom. This is the unconditional field of divine love. It wants nothing from you. There are no rules. It asks nothing of you. Nothing. But for you to sing the song of your own autonomous heart. It asks nothing of you than to sing the divinity that you are through the form that you are in this lifetime, to sing that song so purely as a resonance of divine being, to beam the light that you are so brightly that the brilliance is the glory that is shining on the surface of life. Divinity asks nothing of you. God wants nothing of you. Nothing. Nothing at all. But you cannot imagine that when you are in separation, because you have lived, we have lived in the habit of ego, wanting, desiring, bargaining, right? So you imagine that this path must want something from me. It must want to take something from me. It must be asking me to give something up. Not at all. Nothing is being asked of you. Nothing. Live wholeheartedly this moment as the moment. Live wholeheartedly this moment as the moment. If anything is being asked, it is that. It is to live free, unedited, unfiltered, unconditioned as life itself. But that is not even a demand. It's not a want of you. It's an openness to join with this truth that you are, to be before everything, to be before past and story, to be before name, to be before everything, and to live as life itself, joyous, happy freedom. It's not being asked of you, it is being offered to you. It's not an offer that has a time limit. It's not a limited offer. It's not an offer that needs anything in return. It's an open offer. Be yourself. Be yourself. Live as love. Be here now. Be free. Be freedom. Be the love of an open heart, right? So the mind that imagines, I have to leave my job, I have to leave my family, I'm going to lose something. That is all your mind's creation. That is exactly what we are speaking of as your nervous system having an attachment to past. It's not to do with the story, it's the feelings that get brought forward. They will be familiar. It will be bringing forward old fears, old desires, old traumas, we could even say. It'll be bringing forward old feelings, but it's not ever asking anything of you. The grace is that what is coming forward is freeing you from your old fears so that you can recognize, you can truly recognize what it is to have nothing being asked of you. You're not joining a club. You're not joining something. You're not signing your life away. There's nothing that is being asked of you. Nothing. It's an invitation to be yourself, an invitation that says, if you feel the resonance of this truth, rest in this resonance. Find what this resonance is. Confirm it in your own heart. Confirm it in the innermost being. Confirm it, not because someone is giving you something, not because someone is offering you something, but because the love that you are is offering its fullness of remembering to you, right? The light that you are is shining its brilliance so that you will remember the light that you are all the way through. That nothing on the surface of life can pull you into identification. The body lives out its dharma on the surface of life. Life itself lives itself out. When you are living, resting in the being, you are living right in the heart of your truth. You are living your dharma, right? You're living, let's say, your purest blueprint all the way through, right? It's still going to live itself out. But when you are living in the purity of the open truth of who you are singing that song like a songbird at 4 a.m., singing your heart out, singing the silent radiance of your heart, fully aligned in the knowing of who you are. And you are singing your unique song as a play, in the play on the surface of life, right? This is the invitation to freedom. You are living oneness. You are living life, life living itself. When you know your wholeness, when you know the belonging, when you know the truth of who you are, the unique life is not separate in any way from wholeness. You're living the divine life. We could say we are living the divine life together with a shiny, shimmering gaze. We recognize each other. We recognize the silence of the heart. We recognize the deep-rooted knowing of being. It does not even have to be spoken. The self recognizes itself. The self is magnetized to itself. The self moves to support itself in every way, right? Let's say the unique Dharma is a flavorful expression of divinity in truth, right? It's divinity in expression. The human life is the divine life when it is lived in freedom. Your commitment, your sincerity, your devotion to your longing, turning towards yourself. These are just the offering of possibilities. If the longing is true and deep, follow that longing, Follow the longing into the heart. Be here now. Be here now, feeling the purity of existence itself. Keep returning to now and to now and to now. Because this is the grace being offered that says, if you are longing for freedom, if you are longing to know this truth all the way through, then these are the possible ways that will support your longing coming to fruition, right? Will support the maturing, the ripening. So the fruition is where the fruit drops from the tree. When the fruit drops from the tree, it is because its sweetness is so, so ripe. The sweetness of your knowing. And you drop from the tree, right? You know the Suddha Sattva, the self-realization, the realization of the self, the Suddha Sattva, the pure sattvic sweetness, the pure sweetness of knowing yourself. It's confirmed in the heart itself. It's confirmed in the realm of the innermost being, in the silence, in the knowing. And everything is conspiring to bring this possibility into fruition in this lifetime. It's not a journey that has a goal and an ending. It's coming into the most profound evolutionary process of your dharmic flow, let's say, right? Your divine flow. It's coming into alignment with the truth of who you are all the way through as a multi-dimensional being. Life living itself. The divine shining in and as everything. There is a light inside you, and it is shining like the sun. There is a light inside you. It is shining like the sun. You are so beautiful. It is to live the beautiful self that you are. The immaculate, pure, innocent being. The ever open heart, ever present to itself. And so as these words come, it is to feel the resonance. Radio infinity, attuned to the infinite, eternal, unbounded nature, attuned to the freedom that you are, attuned to the silence that you are, attuned to the stillness that is your own nature. Before everything, here you are, pure and simple, just being here. Living the divine life. Nothing is being asked of you, but every moment is offering you the grace of knowing your true nature and living this freedom right on the surface of life. The depth of your longing will carry you deeper and deeper and deeper, and you will fall in as far as you are destined to fall in, right? Can only be the living truth. You are not here to live someone else's path. You're not here to live someone else's dharma. You are here to live the dharma in divine accord living the divine life, the way that divinity wants to live through the form. And when you know your true nature, and you know you are not the form, and you are not the mind, and when you know what you are not, you know what you are, you know who you are. And knowing who you are the song of the heart. And then that song, that divinity, gets to express itself freely through human, right? Without the human condition, true human, divine human, we could say. The human expression is divinity itself, playing on the surface of life. It is Mother playing with herself, dancing with herself, singing every song in this incredible symphony of one, right on the surface of life. We are in an incredible evolutionary time where she is looking for more forms to sing through. When you are living your truth, when you are living in true nature, then that song, her song, can be sung through you. It's the great service. It's no one else's song. It's no one else's dharma. It's a unique divine happening is this life. When we are turned to God, when we are turned to her, the life will be well lived. Mm. 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 So to just feel the resonance, to feel where these words land as truth in the heart, confirm the felt sense of the resonance of being in the heart as the heart that is vast, infinite, bounded, timeless, unbounded, timeless, right? Unbounded, unlimited. You are vast. You are free. You are timeless, eternal being, immaculate openness, ever free. Feel this resonance. Feel this resonance and rest here. Just resting here. Mm. 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 When you feel the resonance, you can feel the silence more alive, the stillness more deep. The knowing more alive. The openness so wide and free. The light so bright, shining in and of itself, inside. Mm. Mm.